You are listening to the Ever Argue with a Woman podcast, and I am Heather Tessmer. Welcome back to the Ever Argue with a Woman podcast. We're glad to have you here today. And like we did last time, we're going to start with an EOS intro, which is what is your good personal and your good business news. And so for me, I just got back from a wonderful vacation with my family to the British and U.S. Virgin Islands. We spent a week on a catamaran, just us. It was the perfect COVID getaway. And my good business kind of goes hand in hand with that trip, is the office really doesn't have to have me here to be successful. We have 19 new clients that have come in while I've been gone. It's great to not be needed. So today we're going to be talking about red flags in a relationship. What is a red flag? It might be just a feeling, but it's usually some kind of a warning that something's not right or could potentially be damaging to your relationship. And so usually there's at least a little voice saying, uh-oh, something might be off about this. So some red flags don't have to mean that your relationship needs to be terminated, but it should just put you kind of in a state of awareness so that you can just take a look at it and make sure that that's something that you can live with. And so I wanted to go through a few red flags that I think are very important that you might need to be on alert for. We're not going to do this in any certain kind of order. I'm going to start with one that is kind of amusing and that, again, I haven't been out to the singles bars in many, many years, but I even remember this one. And that's the potential person who says that he's almost divorced. Well, I say he's almost not divorced. So I would never trust any of that. And as a divorce attorney, I always tell my people, no dating, no drugs, and no drinking while you're going through this process. Because everybody's watching you. The almost divorced or someone who's talking bad about his alleged ex-spouse, all of that is just kind of worrisome because, number one, he or she is not being honest with you. And then also the bad-mouthing part is a red flag for me. They were not able to untie the knot in a healthy way so that they are still in controversy. And so that actually goes to my second red flag, is the potential partner who can't stop talking about their ex. Whether it's bad-mouthing them and talking poorly, or there's some that are still obsessed with them that keep following them on social media and can't seem to let go. Both of those are kind of A and B to my number 2 red flag, which is still obsessing, whether good or bad, about their ex relationship. So number 3 would be witnessing any kind of toxic behavior. What I mean by toxic behavior is she obnoxious to the waitress? Is he manipulative to you or to other people? Does he do things that are maybe dishonest? Does he brag about lying? Just these little things could add up to being a major red flag. My number 4 red flag is, are you having trouble in the sexual part of your relationship? I mean, all relationships ebb and flow, but when you're in the beginning of a dating relationship and you're already having issues in that department, I would say that's a red flag. But from the last podcast, you know how I feel about the need for good sex in your relationship. Number 5 would be what I call the honeymoon's over. Usually when you start a relationship, especially men, are trying to woo you, and they should be treating you like a princess. And sometimes when they think they've got you, all of that stops. That behavior needs to be sustained throughout your relationship. And 32 years later, you still need to feel like a princess whenever he's around. What about communication? Communication is key in any relationship. When you come home from work and you had some good news, but you don't tell your partner, that could indicate a problem. Is he going to be jealous of your accomplishments? Is he going to belittle you? Is he going to make you feel uncomfortable about something you're feeling good about? that might be something to think about. That might be something you want to consider. And if there are other red flags involved, they might all add up to helping you make a major decision. There is one problem, though, when you're in a business like mine. There are a lot of things that I can't go home and talk about. If you're required to keep things confidential, then this red flag may not be one that applies to you. So are you proud of this person that you're dating? If you are, you usually want to show him or her off. If you find that you don't want to do that, then maybe that's a red flag. So I said previously that if he or she can't stop talking about their ex, then that might be a red flag. Well, also, what if they don't want to talk about it at all? I think that also could be a red flag. Once you're in a committed relationship, there are a couple of things that go with that. And one is, if you're making a big decision, you should probably consult with your partner. And if he or she is not doing that with you, I would say that's definitely a red flag. Another red flag might be that while you guys don't have to do everything together, what if he starts doing everything alone? He leaves you at home. That's going to be a red flag. What if some of the things that she found cute about you are now starting to irritate her? The little quirkiness is now becoming an irritation. What if she starts putting you down? I think these are more red flags you need to watch out for. Have you ever been in a relationship where you just become overwhelmed by the attention that you're receiving from this new person? You could be experiencing a love bombing. What this is when your partner becomes very invested early on. It's a form of manipulation. This person will talk all about your future, shower you with affection and big declarations of love, and you fall for them. And then they pull away or they disappear and they leave you heartbroken. Watch out for that early obsessive behavior, because that could be a red flag. Another red flag is jealousy. Are they jealous of your friends, of your family? Are they jealous of the time that you are spending at work? This could be a red flag. What if your friends and family don't like your new partner? Do you ignore it? Do you get mad at your friends and family? Usually your friends and your family are going to be looking out for you. So pay attention to what they are feeling or thinking about this potential partner or the partner that you have. Another red flag is someone who has a lot of excuses. Excuses for their behavior. Excuses for being late. Excuses are for the incompetent. This is another red flag to watch out for. What about controlling behavior? If your partner is trying to control who you see, how you spend your money, where you go, what you wear, what you eat, these are all red flags. Watch out for that. It is also a form of manipulation. The red flags is like a prickly feeling. You may not understand what it is, but something just doesn't feel right. And sometimes that's the feeling you get when you're being manipulated. Why are you telling me this information? And sometimes it's because it's for their benefit, not for yours. And that same manipulation, it's not quite being dishonest, but it is. That's not telling you everything. I would just watch out for that feeling that you get where something's not quite right. And you're trying to get me to do something because it benefits you. And really, that's one thing that drives me crazy. So what about gaslighting? Gaslighting is kind of a newer term, but that's when somebody tries to make you think that your reality isn't real and you can start to believe it. You need to be confident in yourself and in what you believe in. And what about the person who always loses their phone? What is that called? Catfishing? Isn't that where they like disappear on you? That's ghosting. So ghosting. So how long should it take your person to answer a text from you? Depending on the circumstances, it might be a while, but you need to know that you're important in their life. If they just disappear on you, that's what's called the ghosting, then maybe that's a red flag. Another red flag you need to watch out for is alcohol and drug use. And that probably goes without saying. If they're extreme on the alcohol, you may need to watch out for that. And then I may have mentioned this in the last podcast, but how does he treat his mom? That's usually going to be a pretty good indication about how he's going to treat you. So watch out for that. Now that we've been through a bunch of red flags, let's talk about another hot label that's kind of going around in the family law world, and that's narcissist. So a true narcissist is someone with narcissistic personality disorder, or NPD. And this is something that I see a lot in some of our more difficult divorces because typically one of the people is labeled a narcissist. And whether they truly are or not, who knows? So typically, a narcissist is someone who's very charming at first. They are going to knock you off your feet and try to show you how great they are. And they're going to talk about it. They're going to hog the conversation and talk all about their great accomplishments. And you know what? They're going to feed off of your compliments. They want you to know how great they are, and they want to hear you tell them how great they are. A typical narcissist will not have any empathy. They do not know how to do emotion. You may notice that a true narcissist doesn't have any long-term friends. They also tend to pick on you or cut you down because that makes them feel bigger and greater. Gaslighting is a true form of entertainment for them. They will totally ignore you. Typically, it makes you want to get back to them even more. They're not going to want to call you their girlfriend. They're not going to want to define the relationship. They like to keep you hanging. They think that they're right about everything and they're never going to apologize. And when you start making moves to break up with them, they start to panic. And when they realize you're serious, they're going to lash out at you and they're going to do everything they can to hurt you. So you realize you might be dating a narcissist. What are you going to do? Well, kind of the consensus is that once a narcissist, you're always a narcissist, and there's really no treatment for this condition. Whether that's true or not, and whether you're really in a relationship with a narcissist, I don't know. But I've seen some pretty extreme cases where you have just got to get away with whatever you can and start over. And you probably need some counseling. One thing that I want to make sure is very clear is that if anybody ever puts their hands on you in an abusive manner or physically abuses you in any way, that is a hard stop. That is not a red flag. That's a get out. Don't ever let anybody do that to you. And when it comes to mental abuse, you need to be careful with that too because it'll sneak up on you and you will not realize how bad it is until it's bad. That's the manipulation, and it's a slow burn. You won't realize how bad it is until it's bad. So I just want to make sure that you guys realize don't live in that kind of a relationship. You don't have to. There are many different ways to get help. Also, if your partner is not hurting you, but is intimidating, punching holes in the wall, kicking in doors, no, get out. That is not acceptable behavior. And you can try getting counseling. You can try going to a marriage counselor. You can try talking to them, but you're putting yourself in danger because you're the next target. And if you're not the next target, then your kids are. When we were preparing for this episode, we asked around the office for some questions. The team members posed some different scenarios for us to consider, and they want to know what I think as a divorce attorney if some of these behaviors are truly red flags. So here we go. So is it a red flag if they're still friends with their ex? And in a true lawyer fashion, I'm going to say it depends. Well, as a divorce attorney, my goal is to have you get divorced and still be able to stand each other, especially if you have kids, because you're going to be in each other's lives for the rest of your kids' lives. So I think if they're friendly with their ex, that's great. But they should not be friends with benefits or obsessed with each other. They should be able to discuss their children's issues in a nice, polite manner. But you are going to have to be the judge of how extreme that gets. So again, it depends. So would it be a red flag if you had different political viewpoints? My answer to that is no. Probably not a red flag unless he or she is rude about it or belittles your opinions. But I think that could be actually a healthy dichotomy in your relationship. And there are a lot of people I know that are married that have complete polar opposite ideas of how the political world should be. So in my opinion, different political views might actually add spice to your relationship. So is it a red flag if my boyfriend has a best friend that's a girl? That's a tough one. I think, again, it depends. Are they work buddies? Do they do things after work together? Are they constantly texting each other? Do they go to lunch with each other alone? Well, maybe that's a red flag. If they're buddies at work, they really don't do anything afterwards. If you do get together on the weekends, it's a group thing, then maybe that's okay. And I actually struggled with this for many years because my husband had a work wife. Julie, you know who you are. It used to make me nuts because he would go to lunch with her every day well, it seemed like every day. It was just them. It was so bizarre to me. I don't know. I think she'll get a kick out of that. So someone asked if it's a red flag if I'm expected to foot the bill each time. I'm going to say yes, it is. And in today's day, it's a little bit different. So 30 years ago, it wouldn't have been a red flag to me. I would have expected my date to pay for me, and I probably would have kicked them to the curb if they didn't. But today, women are so independent. I really don't like taking anything from anybody anymore. And I know a lot of women feel the same way. So I think splitting the bill when you're early in the relationship is okay. Also, what if you have a big disparity in income? Well, I could probably still afford to buy you a cup of coffee or maybe an ice cream cone. I think if you're both investing in the relationship, you both need to be doing things. And maybe if it's not a monetary contribution, maybe you can contribute some other way. If one is expected to always foot the bill, I would be cautious with that. So another question was, what if we don't have the same level of ambition? Meaning, let's say I'm a type A, which may or may not be true, and the person that I'm dating is not. And they're not competitive, they take it easy, and it's the complete opposite of my personality. Is that going to be a red flag? My answer to that is absolutely not. And actually, it might be really good for your relationship, because can you imagine if you have two type A personalities in the relationship? You're both competing against each other instead of working towards a mutual goal. It could really be difficult. But if you have someone who is more of a support system or a giver that's supporting you to do what you want and to achieve, then that might be the best thing for you. Honestly, I live that relationship every day. And it used to bug me maybe 27, 28 years ago, but I got over it. I just realized that I needed to be the one to get out there and do things. And you know what? I've had the strongest, loving hands helping me up the whole way with my husband. And he's been a great support system. He has no desire to be out in the forefront. He would much rather be the one who's there supporting me and our office and our family. So another question was, is it a red flag if they've been divorced more than once? Hell yeah. I say yes because there's something wrong, and whether it's their picker or them. So yeah, I would say you might want to be really cautious with that one. I wouldn't say it's a total non-starter, but I would definitely be careful about that. It's just like when we have new clients coming in. If you've been to more than one other attorney, our normal reaction is no. But you can sometimes talk me into taking you if you've been to more than one other attorney. So it's kind of the same way with the relationship. It might depend. There might be some extenuating circumstance. Who knows? But it is a red flag. So if you have a question that you would like us to consider answering, well, be sure to send us a message, and there's going to be a way for you to do that. So go to our website and click podcast. You can ask any question, and it might be answered on a future episode. I know everybody likes to hear stories about, what's happened in the past, and every story I'm thinking about for this episode doesn't end well. And I don't want to end this podcast on a sad or sour note, but I wanted to do this episode because I did want to warn everyone that when you're feeling something icky, you need to trust your gut, because some of these red flags can really end badly. So take what you want, leave the rest, and I hope that we gave you some good information to help you when picking your partner. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Ever Argue with a Woman podcast. This is my first time doing anything like this, and I was very nervous coming in here and working on it. But I think it's going to be great. We're going to have some laughs. We're going to have some fun with this, and we're all going to learn, and that's not a bad thing. Next time, we're going to talk about prenuptial agreements. How exciting is that? We're going to discuss what Texas law will do with your stuff. We're going to talk about how to protect your stuff and just some ideas that might help clarify some of your questions before you get married. So let's talk prenuptials next time. You are listening to the Ever Argue with a Woman podcast, and I am Heather Tessmer. Ever argue with a woman?